Shout out to an SNL sketch for inspiring my thoughts on this topic. Zac Efron revived his iconic character Troy Bolton to deliver a graduation address to East High School. And he pointed out a bunch of flaws with High School Musical. It's America's only musical high school. Nobody sings in college. The real world's not choreographed, etc., etc. But the biggest point he made was that the artistically vibrant high school gave him a terrible education. I realized at this moment that I can't remember a single time I saw those dancing and singing teens ever take a test on quadratic equations or photosynthesis. And while the point of High School Musical was supposed to be a wildly fake and dramatic take on American high school, this premise ironically made it the most accurate depiction of secondary education in America. Kids in this country leave high school feeling fulfilled because they learned how to color inside the lines, yet have no idea how to do their taxes. Congratulations, kid, you know what color blue and yellow makes. And yet you have no idea how to balance a budget. Yeah, America, we're doing a bang-up job with these kids. Oh, sidebar to our politicians, you can't pretend that you don't see this idiotic setup and then somehow complain when the Chinese are taking over. Their kids don't sit at home pretending to care about how to turn geometric shapes into faces. They're too busy trying to figure out how to grow a kick-ass economy. Because I'm terrified for the future of this country, I affirm, resolved, high schools should replace art electives with financial literacy classes. For these purposes, there are two variables that frame this conversation. First, you should assume that every change that I am proposing happens only at a high school level. You are not finna have me up here saying that we should take away a first grader's coloring books and replace them with W-2 forms. Second, the outcome of this debate should depend on which proposal has the most utility for children in the future and produces the best outcomes. When debating about educational models, we have an ethical obligation to consider future generations instead of solely where we are now. Contention 1. Financial lit classes have a ton of lifelong use. First and foremost, the most formative points of adolescence happen during high school, which makes the time important to teach financial skills. Second, these classes do just that. Unlike art classes, which have failed our students for nearly a century, these classes show great promise and effectiveness. According to Epperson and Manning of CNBC, research shows that kids who learn to manage money when they're young will be able to better handle their finances as adults. In the midst of an unstable economy and a debt crisis at all levels, these skills are necessary. The Federal Reserve shows that 40% of households could not take on a financial emergency of $400 or more. As if that wasn't reason enough, financial literacy classes also emphasize problem solving, which is an exportable skill. Learning how to work within financial constraints, being forced to think about growth, and how to innovate is important to lifelong development. And this will become a part of the student's overall repertoire when they enter the workforce, which makes for a more productive labor force overall. Contention 2. At every level, art classes are actually counterproductive for student creativity. We love to think of art as the vestibule for creativity. Oh, and by the way, if you don't know what vestibule means, it's probably because you spent too much time in art class. But that's just wrong for 3 reasons. First, most students end up just horsing around in art classes. Let's not sit around and pretend that these classes are full of the next Picassos or Michael Jacksons. It's mostly kids looking to get easy A's and take a break from their actual course load. Yeah, you heard me say it. Art is not an actual class. And by the time high school kids have already developed formative interests, so the kids that love arts will do it regardless of whether these classes exist or not. Second, the idea of a set curriculum on artistic creativity ends up punishing kids for not being the right type of creative or for making mistakes. Because these classes have definitive criteria, students that fail to meet those metrics will do worse. According to Melissa Pertee of the Art of Education Institute, in art, those with less technical skills would always get lower grades. And because they view this as an image of their expression, it ends up disincentivizing them from expressing the way they want to. Third, it reinforces an educational model where we separate creativity from the rest of the curriculum. Creating a class exclusively for creativity subconsciously reinforces the belief that there is a time for creativity and a time for efficiency, which is horrible when you enter the real world. Instead of rolling out these tired classes, we should challenge curriculum directors to infuse creativity into the curriculum. And financial classes are a phenomenal place to start.
Time for cross-ex. So I have a question on the sort of last argument you made that says if we separate creativity from everything else, it reinforces this idea that there's a time to be creative, a time not to be creative. Isn't that the case, though? Like, how is chemistry creative?
Because there's a bunch of stuff that you... First of all, there are a million things in chemistry you can do that are creative.
Let's be practical. Like, there is a time in school to be creative, which are these art electives.
No, there's not.
Algebra
See,
class.
that belief... So
what's creative about algebra?
For example, the whole point of a word problem is supposed to be that it's creative. The only problem is that they mean nothing to us because they're usually asking us ridiculous things like what is the slope between this shit moving 40 miles an hour and this plane moving 200 miles an hour.
The thing moving 40 miles an hour is a train or a plane, which is the word problem stuff you're
Yeah, that's my point. My point is that
how can that become creative?
Yeah, my point is that right now the reason why we teach those things in a boring manner and in a non-relatable manner is because of people like you that say that creativity can only exist in certain classes.
So the fact that we have art electives and we have a separation of art and like
I think that's a terrible
is the reason why that stuff's not creative, not because the content of it is actually just not creative.
Well, my point is that we should stop creating or stop making classes that are based solely on creativity or based to separate creativity from everything else.
Why isn't it good? So if there's obviously a difference between math and English, right? There's a certain time to focus on word problems and a certain time to analyze the definition of words. Why isn't there a good time to analyze how we can creatively pursue different potentials through art, through music?
The point of this argument is not to say that creativity in art is bad, but the fact that it creates an excuse for curriculum directors to not have to be creative when they talk about other classes like math.
So you haven't seen schools in which there's art classes and creative math classes. You're just saying that art makes every other class not creative.
Well, please read me something that says this school is creative because it has arts.
Let's move on.
They have creative math because they have creative arts.
You cited this amazing statistic that a lot of Americans don't have $400 or more in savings. How will teaching financial lithercy in 9th grade solve that?
Yeah. So
it doesn't seem like you're structuring the economy or giving new jobs. It seems like you're just giving people information.
Yeah. So there are a few things about it. First is that if high school is the formative years, teaching kids about money often inspires a lot of them to go into fields that actually do end up shaping that economy that you just...
David, how do you make a lot of money in the world?
By working and innovating.
Interesting. So you think innovation? Because it seemed like you were thinking.
Oh, I absolutely said innovation was good.
Seems to be getting a job.
That's how you make money,
and that's why a lot of people don't have $400 in savings.
Well, that wasn't that's not what this said.
It seems like creating
the stat was that they couldn't take
like creating solutions to problems, which requires creativity, actually substantiates.
Yes, and I've made an argument about why financial literacy classes promote creativity and art classes do not promote creativity.
So because people know how to do their tax returns, they're more skilled in the labor market.
That's obviously a reductionist vision of what financial literacy looks like.
What other curriculum do you teach that makes them more creative and marketable?
Things like how to maintain or how to balance like a work budget, how to kind of stretch money, etc.,
etc. You have to have money to manage in the first place.
Well, that's my point, is that it teaches people how to make good with little.
Okay.
Which is something that I'm sure we agree is good.
In our hyper-consumer capitalist economy, we are taught to think that the core essence of what makes us human, our ability to create, is not marketable or productive. We've created an education system that underpays the people responsible for making sure we end up being good people, the teachers, forces kids into learning a standardized curriculum of information that's not flexible to their individual needs, and sets us up basically to go sell our soul to work for some corporation that can't even suck the soul out of you because you already sold it to go work there in the first place. Do you feel creative? Want to suppress that creativity? Don't worry about taking a drug, just go spend 18 years in our education system, and by the time you come out, you may never need a painkiller again because you'll realize nothing can kill the pain of a life with unlimited potential that was limited by a system that was supposed to unleash it. The only thing, and I mean the only thing, that actually saves our disgusting education system is the fact that they try to inspire some level of creativity in students with art electives. Whether it's graphic design, painting, music, these are some of the things that speak to the beauty of being alive, the idea that human ingenuity is not limited and can constantly create. And if we show you in this debate that these classes should not be replaced with anything, much less information on how to file a tax return, then you should vote for us in this debate. We have two fundamental arguments. Our first argument: creativity is cultivated through experiences you have when you are young, which is why art classes are so vital. We already explained that the education system stifles creativity in most ways. The real important thing to realize, though, is that your youth is a huge indicator of how creative you will eventually become. And high schools in particular, those formative years, play a really important role in cultivating that creativity. Students are already bombarded with chemistry, biology, algebra, and all the other useless information we learn in school. I mean, seriously. Do you even remember the periodic table if you're in a career that doesn't require you to do so? Do you always have to solve for X on a day-to-day basis? Why don't we ever learn about solving for Y? Oh, I know why. Because we're too worried about X. It's like we never got over the breakup. Students need a space to cultivate why they want to solve for Y, and the only break they get from tests and PowerPoints is their art electives. Replacing those electives with anything, much less financial information, is not creating the possibility that students can become more creative. And the impact, and this is a really important thing, to more creativity. See, these jokes are about creativity because I didn't have financial classes. That's why everyone's laughing now. The impact to more creativity is more solutions to every problem that we face as a species. There's a reason a lot of creative people are bad in school or leave college. They're more concerned with solving a problem that most people who go through the traditional education system can't figure out a solution towards. We need that creativity in our students and in our youth, and that's why we can't replace those classes. Our second argument: you literally have forever to figure out your finances after school, and plenty of experiences that will actually teach you financial literacy better than a class in school. The bottom line is David only spoke to the potential benefits of instituting financial literacy. He did not explain practically what this means for kids. Think about it. If you're not in high school, think back to when you were in high school if you're listening to this. Do you think you could sit through 45 minutes about learning about the tax code every day? How about accounting? How about intellectual property laws on a patent? The point is, high school is too young to start meaningfully learning about financial literacy at that scale. David here is in what I like to call a double bind. Either the information is so complex that you're going to end up just forgetting it, like the periodic table, or the information from financial literacy is so simple to understand and the concept so easy that you can pick it up through YouTube videos. The point here is that most people will end up getting experiences to teach them about financial literacy in life. Losing money in the stock market is the only way to understand the stock market, not by reading about stocks or watching a PowerPoint. You don't even have a bank account in 9th grade. What is the point of learning about stocks or financial literacy with no money to be able to invest and take risk with to gain practical experience? You can learn about finances through life, and you shouldn't replace the creative potential of art with them, which is why we shouldn't replace these classes. Now, let's get to some of David's fundamental arguments. First, on his framework, he says we should only think about high school levels and the most utility for students in the future. We agree. Whatever class has the most utility, whether it's art or finances, should win this debate. His first argument, he says financial literacy teaches skills that matter. No, it doesn't. His first argument is like Americans are in debt. You do not solve that problem, David. This is a problem with the structuring of the economy and the fact that people don't have necessarily high-paying income skills that get them that income. The fact that people are broke says a lot about our hyper-consumerist capitalist economy that you sustain, not having more financial information. Knowing how to do your taxes does not give you a lot of money to pay those taxes to the government, which means he doesn't have an internal link to make this impact make sense. His second argument is that you need to be able to solve problems, and financial information teaches you how to solve problems. Two responses. One, so does algebra, like he said in cross-ex, so does chemistry, so do all the other analytical things that you're bombarded with teach you how to solve problems. But two, and more importantly, the best problem solvers are the most creative. When you need a problem to be solved at scale that actually gets you to have some type of substantial income to pay those taxes, you need to be creative. You need to figure out how to do something with nothing. David says that's when you know how to work a budget. That's not creating something out of nothing. You need to be creative and unleash your potential of how you think about the world, problems, and solutions that is only cultivated through creative curriculums, not through financial information, which are not creative. His second argument says that creativity is counterproductive. He has a couple arguments. He says, one, students don't care. That doesn't matter. Yeah, some students don't care. A bunch of students don't care in English or math. Like 90% of the class doesn't have to care. The fact is they're getting a core curriculum that helps them to some extent. And that is our entire point. And that creativity is differentiated from all the other core curriculum, which makes it uniquely important for us to be able to understand. His final argument is the worst argument. He says this reinforces education from the rest of the creative curriculum. That's a good thing because the other parts of the curriculum aren't that creative. Again, they're bombarding you with analytical information. Study 50 definitions and then repeat those definitions on the test. That's memorization. That's memorization and regurgitation. That's not creativity. Having an actual elective that sustains and focuses on creative potential for kids is the best way to structure a school, and that's why you shouldn't replace that with knowing how to do your taxes.
All right. So one of the arguments that you made for the thing that controls the link to creativity is that creativity is cultivated in experiences, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, what about art experiences help students become more creative?
The process of learning what's the difference between an E minor and an F flat, the process of knowing how to
Yeah. So
like all the curriculum of these classes.
So you talk to me about useless information. You're telling me that the thing that makes people creative enough to solve real world problems is knowing the difference between E minor and F flat?
When you reduce it like that,
you are
fundamentally misinterpreting the argument.
But the
process of learning how to play a guitar is the creativity skills that none of the other classes you talk about can access, especially financial.
So what person has
solved?
Not
just literally the notes.
Fine. So what person has solved a global problem that would accredit that to knowing how to play the guitar in an art school?
Okay, I don't know an example of a global entrepreneur who played guitar. My point is, when you're learning,
I don't think you have a single example.
When you're learning how to paint, when you're learning how to do this, when you're learning how to even know how to raise your voice on a certain note, that facilitates creative thinking.
How? What evidence is there for this?
David, you don't need evidence to realize that when you're taking art, you're doing things that are fundamentally not analytical.
No, I understand they're not analytical.
I'm curious. That's not analytical.
You're right that artistic expression is important, but you for some reason seem to assume that the only place artistic expression happens is in art class.
No.
Which
that's
probably isn't
the
true.
argument. That's not, you can say other experiences cultivate that. We're saying in school where you spend a majority of your time, it's one of the best places.
Yeah, but you don't spend a majority of your time in art class.
Yeah, but you don't spend a majority of your time in financial information class either.
All right,
you can get financial experiences and art experiences from everywhere.
Okay.
This is a question of in school.
Next question. We have all the time in the world to figure out our problems, to figure out our money problems.
Yeah, so the essence of this...
When do you have to start paying student debt once you leave college? How long?
So I have two responses.
You just graduated. Come on, how long?
Let me clarify real quick. When I mean all the time in the world, I mean... In high school, you need to worry about a lot of other things other than finances, because once you graduate high school,
you're
actually responsible for paying student debt, actually responsible for getting a job, that's when it hits you in the face. Our argument is
so we should wait until then.
Because hitting you in the face is the only way people learn.
Okay, so your argument is people need to go broke.
Perfect example. All the financial information you give to people will not stop them from getting student debt. Guaranteed. How many people are not going to go to college because they know
it'll absolutely teach them how to manage student debt.
How, David? When you get $80,000 in debt, you get $80,000 in debt. What do you mean manage it? You're gonna try to pay a little bit less interest on it from some of the greedy companies that give you 6% versus 5%, and that makes a substantial difference because of financial information. You will be in debt no matter what, which is why you need life experiences to teach you how to get out of debt.
But that's not what. So do you need life experiences or need to know how to color your life experiences? Amit?
Financial literacy comes through life experiences, not through a textbook. That's our argument.
Okay.
All right, let's take a break from the debate and talk about this.
We already took a break.
I just didn't officially say it. Okay, so I'll start this break from debate. Why were you laughing so much in my monologue?
Dude, because you sound like an idiot.
Can you just say I'm funny once and for all? Because I feel like at this point.
So this is my favorite line. You guys
couldn't see it, but David was just dead.
This is my favorite line from that.
I already know what you're gonna say.
Basically, it was a bit long, but there are two. But the first one was a bit long, but it essentially boils down to: don't take drugs. They can't kill the pain of your worthless life.
Wait, no, that's not.
That's exactly what you said.
Hold on. Let me say this again.
That's not what he said.
Yes, it is.
I said, if you want to suppress creativity, don't worry about taking a drug. Just go spend 18 years in a system that is gonna kill it anyway.
That's your worthless life. That's exactly what you said.
Because there's no creativity in the school. That's the idea.
So what you just said was you will live a worthless life. So don't worry about taking drugs. They won't kill the pain. That is great.
It won't.
That's phenomenal.
It won't kill the pain of suppressing your creativity, which was the top part.
The second part.
But I do get what you're saying.
All right, tell everyone what you want to say. This X and Y thing, because
this shit was phenomenal. I just need it's okay. Anyway,
they never answer the question of why because they're too worried about X. Like they never got over the breakup.
This is
I think they are answering the question of why because they're solving for X and Y equals whatever.
I don't know what the hell she just said, but that was too many letters. This is why I'm not good at math. I need to be on SNL. I need to be like.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. Anyway, Let's talk about this debate. So let's talk about our actual opinions. I kind of disagree with what I'm saying, but I do understand my argument. I'm more on your side that I think financial information is more important. How about you? What do you think?
Dude, okay, so here's the thing. I hated, like, visual art, like fine art.
I agree. I hate that so much.
But I was, like, in a music magnet school for, like, 2 years before I came to Newark. I loved it.
You love music?
Yeah, I think art classes are one of the most, like, valuable things that we have.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just, so I would be inclined to say that they should not be replaced by financial literacy classes. I think that, like, we probably don't have to make a forced choice between the two.
Agreed, yeah. And this debate is cool because it forces us to make that choice, which gets the best arguments out of us.
But, like, I don't know, man. I think that there's a bunch of, like, utility for art that's just, like,
I agree. I just
easily...
genuinely don't think I got more creative because of art class. Do you feel it? Forget music, like actual drawing and shit. Do you think you became more creative?
No. Okay. So this is
I really don't.
So this is my art experience, right? I had this, like, art teacher. I don't even know where she is now, but I don't even know what happened to her. I hope she's okay. But basically, she had, like, a big emergency during class, and they replaced her with the coolest, like, old dude that had been, like, a substitute teacher in the system for so long. Before her, I was struggling. I was damn near a D in art, which...
So she really helped you create...
No. She almost ruined my life. The guy helped me get it back to
the new guy, right?
Yeah, the new guy helped me get it up to, like, an A.
Because he was a sub.
Yeah, he was a sub.
He wasn't.
You weren't being creative. You were just putting bullshit aside.
Not doing any work.
No, son. I felt so much more creative when there was an A on my paper.
Oh my God.
I felt so much more creative.
That's a good ass argument, though. I feel more creative when I'm getting an A versus an F. I mean, that's true. You don't feel like creating when you're broke, when you're failing tests? Like,
yeah.
That's a good argument you can make.
I actually did make that argument. You just didn't answer.
Yeah, but I think you can get further, right? When you're... Oh, no, but you're making a logical extension. Yeah. Okay.
No one fails art classes.
Yes, you do.
No, some people...
No, I almost did. This lady tried to teach us, like, the technical skills of art like I was planning to go to, like, Tisch. I did not want to go to Tisch.
You could say the same thing about, like, a calc class, too.
Yeah, I mean... That's true.
Yeah. I think this is a fun debate. I think ultimately it's going to come down to, and we'll see what happens, do creative mindsets create solutions that are the most financially opportunistic? And if so, if that's a small percentage of people, does that even matter? Or does standardized financial information democratized to everyone raise income levels of people? Because I think you have to win there's a material impact on people's money with this information. I'm going to be like, it doesn't do anything, and I'm going to try to get creativity to get to that impact. I think you just have to be like, creativity doesn't do anything. But this argument you made about people horsing around in class, like, this is really true.
Yeah.
Even in college, I took an art class. People were on Facebook. Like, no one cares. Like,
it's just...
You have to be artistic to care a lot about those classes. So, and by 9th grade, 10th grade, I feel like you kind of know already.
Yep.
All right, let's get back to the debate.
Listen, I am not an education expert, but I did go through the education system. So I'll compare what I learned when I took financial literacy versus art, and you can tell me which experience you think is more valuable. I was literally put into a position where I had to be a single parent only with a high school degree in a simulation, taking care of 2 kids, one of whom accidentally hurt themselves in the middle of a hurricane, and then we lost our house. I had to budget to buy a home in Salem, Oregon for some reason, and I still managed to come out on top. My child grew up to be in the NBA like a great member of society. In art class, I learned how to color within the lines and almost failed several times before a substitute teacher saved my GPA. That was it. Which experience is more valuable? You tell me. I'm going to go with financial literacy because I know how money works now. Let's talk about Amit's arguments in response to mine. Well, first of all, we're just going to start with an argument that Amit just straight up did not address. Every argument Amit makes requires one premise in order to be true, that creativity is endemic to art classes. But Amit has conceded a fundamental turn of this argument, which is that structuring art around a curriculum that requires you to give kids grades and punish them for technical mistakes disincentivizes their creativity. art class isn't what make people creative. Creative people make decisions about art. They choose to be creative, but the people that are not as creative or not seen as the right type of creative end up being punished. There is no response to this, and it proves that art class is worse even if art is good. Every argument Amit made was art is so good, art is so good, art is so good, but art class sucks. Now, the next argument that I think is really important is why financial literacy rocks. Now, if my story wasn't enough of proof to you, let's take some actual statistics into account. According to Epperson and Manning of CNBC, the research shows that kids who learn to manage money when they're young will be able to better handle their finance as adults. This takes out Amit's only response to the classes are good point, which is that learning how to do your taxes does not teach you how to be creative or how to work with your money. Yes, Amit, it might not teach you every part of it, but it definitely sets you up. Second is in regards to the economy, it actually inspires kids to want to engage in things like economics and want to engage in making our economy better because it's part of their formative years. But even if we don't do that, at the very least, we teach kids how to manage their finances, which is important given this hyper-consumerist capitalist world that Amit is talking about. Because guess what? In that world, people are trying to run you off the cliff. Guess what Amit never talked about? His art skills, the ability to, do plays, the ability to sing, the ability to paint will not change the fact that we exist in a capitalist economy, which means that people need to learn, if not how to change or how to thrive in that economy, at least how to survive in it. And the basic financial skills are extremely important. Now, Amit's response is proper. First, he says that all of your art skills are cultivated in experience and blah, blah, blah. You have experiences outside of art class. There's no reason why those are endemic. And you're not going to tell me that art teachers somehow save kids. This is not, what's that movie, Hilary Swank, where the art teacher saves everybody's life or something? Yeah. Second, he says that there's a bunch of information that's useless. Yeah, I'm sure it's useless. That's why Amit literally knows nothing. Check every debate up until now. Trust me, he knows nothing about anything. Third, there's some pun about who says why. We're not answering that. It's stupid. Fourth, he says there's a double bind. Either it's so complex that people can not learn it in art or in financial literacy, or it's so easy you can pick it up through YouTube videos. No, Amit, there's a middle ground. It is important that we give kids the head start with instruction and guidance from teachers that are qualified in order to teach the subject, which is more than you can say about getting things on YouTube. Also, there are a lot of people that don't have internet access, etc., but do get access to school, which is important. Now, Amit talks about the hyper-capitalist, consumerist, blah, 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 don't solve debt, blah, blah, blah. We get it. We don't solve debt. We did that stuff above. The last thing is Amit says it doesn't matter if a lot of the students don't care because, there are some students that do. Well, I didn't know that we started setting up public schools to serve only the 10% instead of serving the majority of the kids. It is important that we engage in classes that are beneficial to these kids. Also, if they're not interested, if a majority of them aren't interested, that means the classes aren't serving their purpose. But even if a majority of kids aren't interested in financial literacy, the things they learn will be influential for the rest of their life.
All right, let's talk about this argument that I didn't answer. Structuring art around the curriculum is bad because the curriculum, you either fail or lose, which is bad for the curriculum. Here's my question. In school, you need some basic guidelines to help you get through a class.
Absolutely.
So why does that stifle the entire creative value of art because there's a grade?
Yeah, so I get it, right? My argument is not that that curriculum directors are wrong for setting objective curriculum, but it just proves that art classes are incoherent for their purpose.
Wait, no, but I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm about to explain that part.
Go ahead.
So the point of art is supposed to be that it is a creative outlet, that it allows kids to be able to express themselves in the way they want to. The problem is that school, by definition, sets punitive measures based on whether or not you achieve particular goals.
I understand that.
So when you punish kids for not creating in the way you want to, it stifles their creativity.
In a utopia. There's no school that will not give grades.
No, I'm not living in a utopia. You're living in a utopia where you're like, we should look at this and not care.
Wait, hold
My
on.
solution is,
so
give
just
me these
because
classes. They're worthless.
First of all, just because we have some metrics in music and art class that, by the way, are not like if you get one question wrong, you fail the class.
Well, if you sing flat, you fail.
Okay, that's just not true because there's other ways to get your grade up in those. My point is,
no, there's not. What are you talking about? That's the assignment.
The grade is never the focus in these classes. It's always the creativity. Most of these teachers give a grade because they have to. Like, you know this. So to say that
Yes.
grades are the only focus of these art classes is kind of reductionist.
No, it's not that they're the only focus,
It seems
but
like
they're
what you're saying.
but they're
That's why I cycled
definitely
the whole class.
but they're definitely the focus the kids care about because the grade is the
Okay.
reflection
Okay.
of what they did. So when the kid ends up getting an F for singing, or when the kid ends up getting
David,
an F for what they created, they think that what they created is worthless.
If you have
it
not
decentivizes their
if you have
creativity.
not learned or put in the effort on how to draw a proper like human being, and you only draw stick figures, don't you deserve to fail? And isn't that a good thing about creativity?
Don't you
Creativity-
deserve- No,
Hold on. You're acting
absolutely.
like creativity is just expression without like trying really hard and constant practice and like repetition.
For the record,
That's
that is not
part
what
of
I said.
creativity.
That is not what I said whatsoever.
So a stick figure that gets an F doesn't deserve to get an F.
No,
is your
it absolutely deserves an F. My thing is that when you end up creating a system that is like you can't
That's
make
the
it.
school system. We can't change that.
Yes, you can. Get rid of the classes. That's what I just said. My whole case is about changing the school
Okay, so
system.
then what creativity
Get
do
rid
we
of
have
them.
left? So at that point, what creativity is left in school if we have financial information?
Our argument is that it incentivizes curriculum directors to be more creative in other
How
aspects.
does financial information become creative? That's my last question.
Huh?
Go ahead, talk for the last 20 seconds. How does financial information become creative?
Oh, I would absolutely love to tell you. So, for example, I was in a situation where I literally had to balance a budget, choose a home, choose a life path for my kids,
How is
design a
that creative?
house, engage.
You didn't design the house.
No, I actually did.
You did not architect the damn house. Like, you were not creative.
So actually, I did. One part of the assignment
Really,
was.
what material did you make the house with?
So I had a son that was 7. I'm serious about this. You're looking at me like I'm lying. I'm serious about this. So this was an incredible assignment. Shout out to Whitney Ferran for giving me this assignment. It was incredible. You also know her, right?
I know her.
Yeah. Part of the assignment was literally that I had to design rooms for these kids, so with limited options. So I got like a trophy for my 7-year-old son that played basketball. I got him a literal like goal for his soccer classes.
So you're
and I
an
did
architect because you did financial literacy.
no, I'm not an architect, but I absolutely like learned how to balance a budget, had fun with it, and was extremely creative. BTW, I survived a hurricane, and you did nothing.
Okay. David hates art classes. But apparently he's taken drama, since he's acting like he knows what he's actually talking about. There are two things that we need to win in this debate, two things that will fundamentally frame how you evaluate this debate, and if we win these, we win the debate. The first thing, the one that David just did not respond to in the last speech, financial information in high school is useless at a young age, and we're going to explain why. Second, there is no other space in school through their curriculum to access creativity outside of art electives. If we had to choose between art electives and financial information, the only thing we should pick is art electives because they access creativity. Before I get into those two arguments, let me answer the first thing he said in his last speech. He said, I conceded a big argument that says structuring art around a curriculum is bad. There's two arguments that prove that this argument doesn't really matter that much. One, you need some curriculum. Like, schools are not just the end-all be-all. It's not like some after-school activity where you're not judged upon anything. You need some standards, some objective metrics that explain if you're doing decent in the class or if you're mediocre or if you're really good, just like a regular grading scale would do. Obviously, this is at odds with the general definition of creativity, but that's not enough of a reason to say that art curriculum should be replaced with something like financial information, which if you get one economic question wrong could mean that you fail the entire test. That is a horrible way to evaluate art curriculums. Second of all, some basic standards are good. Like, if you're not learning how to draw correctly after constantly getting the information and the instruction from a well-prepared facilitator, an art teacher on how to draw, that just means you're not putting in the effort. There's a difference between people who absolutely have no artistic bone in their body and people who literally can't try because they're not putting in the work. Same thing in gym class. You don't have to be the best at gym, but you have to show effort. You have to break a sweat. Those are the things that matter, and if we win those arguments, that shows that structuring art around a curriculum is not a bad thing. Two main arguments, and we win this debate. One, the argument David just didn't answer. Financial information in high school is useless. Couple of key points. One, you don't even have any money to really invest when you're in high school. Unless you're some rich, privileged kid that has some money in some hedge fund that you're investing through your daddy's bank account, most kids don't have enough money, which means if you're teaching them about the stock market, which you have to in financial literacy, you have to teach how money operates, and you have no money to actually invest, the information is useless. Whereas everyone has creative potential. Everyone has some potential to unleash their creativity through art, through music, through graphic design. These are the things that matter. Most kids don't even know they're creative until they're influenced or until they're introduced to the idea. Everyone will have to deal with finances at some point in their life. You shouldn't do it at the risk of creativity. The second argument that we're winning here is that financial information doesn't necessarily impact you right now, because in the future you will have experiences that are a better impact for learning financial information. Look what happened earlier in the debate. David said we need to learn how to work a budget so you don't go into student debt. I'm sorry, if you know how to work a budget, are you not going to pay money to go to college? And if you don't get any scholarships or governmental aid, are you not going to go into debt? Which means if you're choosing to just not go to college, and if you're not some of the luckiest people who have super financial aid or super scholarships, guess what? You're going to be in debt. Maybe you know how to manage the debt a little better, but at the end of the day, 80,000 in debt is 80,000 in debt, which means that financial information will hit you in the face when you access those experiences, not when you're in class. Our second argument, there's no other space in school to be creative other than art classes. Collaboration, leadership, team building, all of these things you get through drama, through art, through music, through creative things that are different from the structured curriculum. David cannot have it both ways. He can't say that art around a curriculum is bad because it stifles creativity, but then say, oh, there's other ways that curriculum directors can make math and biology and financial information creative. If art can't be creative, none of the classes that he focuses on in his last speech are ever going to be creative, which means there is only a 1% risk or a potential chance that some of the classes that we're defending, like art electives, actually give you a chance to access creativity, which means now all we have to win is why creativity matters. Problem solving, solutions, the iPhone, the iPad, Netflix, Tesla, random companies I'm starting to name. These were created not by just people who knew financial information, but by people who could see a problem in the world. People don't want to drive to Blockbuster. Oh, what if we start streaming? People want to touch something, not type buttons. Oh, what if we create an iPhone? That does not come through learning about tax codes. It comes through having creative moments in your childhood that inspire you and cultivate a personality to be creative when you grow up. And that solves the money problem, and that's why we shouldn't replace art electives with financial information.
All right, so let's talk about some of this we need objective metric stuff.
Yes.
So I understand your argument that like art classes need objective metrics, and I'm totally willing to concede that, by the way. But like,
We should move on to the next question.
no, my point is, if those metrics are detrimental to kids' creativity, how can you then win
They're
them?
not. That's
Okay,
our argument.
that's
At some level they might be, but you can't get rid
Yeah,
of a
but, like,
whole system just because they're a little detrimental.
To
you, creativity is just put kids in a corner and let them draw what they want. That's not creativity.
I guess I just disagree with you that like that it is just a little bit. But my question is, what evidence do we have that art actually makes any of these kids creative?
Well, so our argument is not that we have statistics that art makes you creative. It's
I know you don't have those.
Okay,
You've never
it's-
had statistics.
It's logical, yeah, because when you're
Because you don't do
creative,
research. Because you don't do research.
The idea is when you're creating, you need to be able to cultivate a mindset that allows you to know how to critically think. That doesn't come.
I don't know why
through
art
a-
class makes you do that.
Why does financial information make you do that?
Oh wait,
You can go through your examples.
No.
I have counter examples.
No,
So the point is, which one's better?
I get that. I get that, right? My point is not. I'm just asking about the art classes thing. You have
Again, I will name more examples. Graphic design, learning how to play an instrument. I played trumpet for 4 years. It was some of the most creative things I had to do. To get those 3 buttons to make 17 different bajillion notes, I wasn't amazing at it, but it definitely forced me to think
Of course, you weren't
differently.
amazing at it.
Yeah, but the point is, I would have been robbed of that experience that I didn't have money to pay for in private classes
All right.
if that wasn't in school.
All right, you're giving me a migraine. All right, everyone has creative potential.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
What? Like what?
Everyone has creative potential. We didn't know we were creative until we joined debate in high school.
Who was we?
You both, were you creative before you discovered your niche?
Kind of. I was in
With
like
what?
a
Solving hurricane problems and financial information.
Well, you know,
That's not.
actually, with something else, but I'm not going to say
Everyone
why
has the
because it'll lose
potential
me the
to
debate.
create, and we should let them unleash that potential, not stifle it.
Got it. So this argument about collaboration, right?
Yes.
Your argument is that these programs force you to be, or I guess, why do these programs create collaboration?
Well, in the music band that I was in, I had to work with the 7 trumpet players that were
The
in my
music
line.
band.
Yes, in school. That's what it was called. It was called a band. We had to
Music
learn how to
band.
play trumpets. Yes, it was the point is, you have
going.
to collaborate and have leadership opportunities in those positions. Like, working with a team in math does not create actual collaboration. 'Cause
Why?
Most of the time,
Why not?
one person's doing all the
It's-
work.
okay,
You're
so-
not actually a team
well,
in
here-
most of those situations.
Well, here's the thing about it. So, like, what you're telling me essentially is just that, like, the reason why the band was collaborative is because you had to partner up and be part of a section, right?
Yeah, and you have to play in tune with that section. That is intrinsically collaborating. Versus, like, doing one problem, you do the other problem, I'll copy yours, you copy mine. Like, which is what most of these math classes are.
Okay, I can see that. I just disagree with that. Cool.
All right, let's take a break from the debate. We need to talk about this hurricane story, David. Can you expand further on how this made you more creative, please?
Okay, so the first thing it did was
It's a great story. I'm just
No, I mean,
curious about
it's a wonderful story, and it's really good for this debate because it actually proves that, financial literacy can be creative. But it taught me how to be creative with solving problems that I created, actually. So, so one problem that I accidentally created, in Newark, we had, a bunch of, weird mixed things, my math teacher was my debate coach, my homeroom teacher, my social studies teacher, my financial literacy teacher, taught me everything.
Yeah.
And did you ever do that project where they were you have to take care of an egg and like it's a baby?
I never did that, but I saw people doing it.
Okay, so for this project, one part of the project was that you had to take care of this bag of flour as a baby. So everyone had at least one kid. So you had to bring your kid to class, which is a bag of flour.
Okay.
And you had to keep it with you like it was an actual baby.
You can't. Flower a rose?
Huh?
What? Nothing?
I hate you. I hate you so much. So you had to keep this baby with you. Had to be in your sight, just like a real kid. And this also taught me that I didn't want kids early. But basically, I dropped my baby.
Wait, so did you fail because you dropped?
No. So we had another student in class. His name was Chevelle, and he had picked out of the hat that he was a doctor. So he got Scotch tape and put it around my baby. And that was the surgery.
And you thought this made you more creative than financial?
Here's the thing. So it was a really, really creative moment.
It definitely was.
And it helped me, think through some stuff.
It was creative because it was a real world experience.
Yeah.
And that
about financial literacy. Right. Don't say what you're about to say next. Don't say what you're about to say next.
Take away that art classes incorporates all real world experiences.
That's true.
Oh, does it?
Well,
it wasn't just the project. It was the fact that you were doing.
Well, so do you know you have to prepare for a
what trip to the Guggenheim?
The winter play, that's a real experience that you're preparing for all September.
Or a drama
November.
class, you're doing an
real
acting
performance
based off of real life experience.
But his is also.
No, you're not. Nobody kills themselves after waking up to an accidentally dead girl. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that. Maybe somebody did once.
You're not over your ex. Maybe. But yeah. Yeah, no, I think you have a good argument. I think if schools structured financial information like that, because mine definitely didn't do that, it would be super creative.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're gonna have to hedge on in this debate. David, was this a financial literacy class?
Yes, it was actually. It was absolutely. It was yes. The entire unit was on financial literacy.
Okay. I'll trust you that this was in financial literacy.
It was what? Okay, so I am extremely disrespected at how much you try to portray me as a liar. Just because I don't always tell the truth, you suddenly think I'm a liar.
Let's talk about this. I want to get your thoughts on this argument, right? The most creative people make the most money. Do you think this is a substantive impact? Do you think this matters?
What, making the most money?
No. Do you think it can be standardized that if we have more creative people because we focus on creativity in schools, we'll have more people who make more money because they'll have problems?
No, I disagree with that simply because based on the economic system we're in, only a certain amount of people can make a ton of the money. So even if we have people that are just generally
we can always have unlimited solutions because there's always unlimited problems.
Not really, because
there's billions of problems that could be $billion companies.
Yeah, but
you could solve water crisis, solar energy. I
don't know, because also to a certain degree, if you can solve a water crisis and you choose to harbor information that can solve a water crisis, you could also technically that's a war crime.
No, but the point is you would create.
So what you're telling me is you're creating war criminals.
No, I think you would create an infrastructure to make money, not just water, but off a lot of big things. Big things require big creative ideas, right?
Yeah.
So but I think your argument is that not everyone is going to do that, and if they were going to do that, they didn't need art class to be able to think of doing that.
Yeah. It seems like something if you are so creative that you can figure out how to solve global crime. By the way, that's easily going to be my answer to this. iPhone, iPad, everything. iMovie, whatever.
Tesla, laptop.
Man, iPhone. My answer to this is easily going to be they didn't need art class.
And I think the other argument you could make is Elon Musk and these people, they were in Zuckerberg, they were engineers.
Yeah.
They did coding. They did hardcore, now that's creative, but at a fundamental level, you need to have a very analytical mind to understand how to code. Yep. And I think you could have been those problems that I'm talking about are solved through analytical skills, which means art class doesn't even cultivate Zuckerberg's creativity. Coding class does.
They also had a ton of money.
They were also rich. Yeah, I think that's another argument. You can create Microsoft if you go to a private school or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the debate.
This is a debate about what model of education is best for our youth. And the problem with Amit's argument is that he's got a bunch of arguments about why a concept like art is good, and no argument about why art class or art education is necessary. But we have an argument about why financial literacy is necessary. We'll just take this debate straight up. Amit's biggest point is financial education is useless, and he says we conceded it. I'm sorry, Amit seems to have ignored an entire point where I said that it incentivizes kids to get a head start on economic issues. Now, all of this stuff about debt that Amit has also talked about is worthless at that point, because my argument was never that kids will not get into debt, but that they will be better at managing debt, better at picking plans, better at choosing colleges based on how much debt they need to take, etc., on top of being able to solve economic issues, because a lot of them are incentivized to go into these fields. I don't care whether or not you like this argument. There was just no response to it. Amit is shaking his head violently, but that's not because he doesn't like the argument. It's because he knows he's already lost. The second thing that Amit says is that there's no other space for creativity. Excuse me, I believe you said that creativity is cultivated by experiences. And there's a whole world out there to have experiences in. Art classes are not valuable for that. Amit says that if you fail one question in an economics class, you would literally fail the entire class. I'm sorry, what? First of all, in order to fail a single test, the test would have to be 3 questions or less, and the reason I know that is because I took financial literacy, and the reason Amit doesn't know that is because, as I said, he's stupid and knows nothing. Now, Amit says that if art can't be creative, nothing can. That's not true. The argument that we have made is that the reason why art class is counterproductive is because the grading system conflicts with the mission itself, that kids end up taking it too personally. I don't care whether or not you like that experience, it's just true. Kids take it personally because the class is a reflection on them, whereas in other classes, it's not as counterproductive because they can think of it as, I just might not have studied hard enough, etc., and then work on those changes. But kids literally understand that they might not be talented in that context because they ended up getting an F, which disincentivizes them. The last thing he says is the iPhone. Yo, Bezos, Gates, Musk, all of them did not need art class. There's not a single interview where they said that. Amit is capping, he's lying. They had money, they had coding, they had a bunch of stuff. Plain and simple. Financial education classes serve a purpose, but the reason why anything Amit is saying right now might be true is because they don't have enough momentum. It's because we don't put enough pressure on trying to make these classes creative, on trying to make these classes engaging, or even on mandating these classes. The first step is to just stop investing and wasting money in art classes that are pointless. Give a kid a coloring book and take him home. He will do as much as he did in 4 years of art. But give a kid a financial literacy class and you'll give him the skills to plan out his entire life. That's how you make a difference in a kid's life.
Let's say David is right. Let's say you agree with him. If you took financial literacy, 3 things. 1, would you be able to beat the S&P 500 and make more than an 8% return year per year on the stock market? 2, would you start flipping houses straight out of high school? And 3, would you not be in student debt? See, the problem with all of David's assumptions is that he actually thinks there is a link between financial information you learn in high school, like 9th to 12th grade, and an actual substantial impact on your income capabilities and possibilities. Newsflash, there is no link. You are not going to start flipping houses because you need a lot of capital to do this. You are not going to beat the S&P 500 and get more than an 8% return because some of the best investors like Warren Buffett aren't even able to do that. And you are definitely not going to get out of student debt unless you have a lot of money from the government, which means you apply for some need-based scholarship, or you're like the top 1% of people who get a full ride to college. There is not an easy solution to this problem. There is just a creative solution and a stupid solution. David has picked the stupid solution. Financial information at such a young age does not correlate to any substantial impact, and he has yet to prove how that information actually creates some level of productivity. Learning how to do your tax returns and learning about the stock market when you don't even have money to invest does nothing. The only thing we need to win in this debate, for us to win this debate, is that creativity leads to 2 things. A, more financial opportunities, which seems to be the only thing David cares about because he's so obsessed with financial information, and 2, you become a better problem solver. None of the arguments David made in his last speech actually answer these 2 fundamental questions. 1, you need creativity to make more money because you have to solve problems. Yes, Elon Musk and Bezos, those are some examples of people who created big things and they had some money already, but even just being able to figure out how to monetize your current skill sets and get some customers that pay you some decent amount of money and turn nothing into something requires creativity. You don't have to make Amazon, but to make $100,000 a year outside of a 9-to-5, which by the way, not that many 9-to-5s pay $100,000 a year, you have to be creative. You have to start a side hustle. You have to figure it out. The way to get those skills is through electives in school at a young age that cultivate that creativity. Second is problem solving. David just didn't answer in the last speech that collaboration, leadership, team building, all of these things don't happen outside of these creative electives. He has yet to name any examples that show algebra or biology actually cultivate a creative personality. I'll give him the argument that not everyone's Picasso or Michael Jackson. Like, yeah, that's true. That doesn't mean they shouldn't try to unleash some of their creative potential. And the only way you do that is if there is a structured curriculum through the public education system that facilitates that. The best things in human existence are the Michael Jacksons, are the Thomas Edisons, are the people who have been able to entertain, persuade, and create solutions to problems. That didn't come from accountants. You know why? Because there's a billion other accountants. If you want to be an accountant, vote for David. If you want to account for how you can actually change the trajectory of your existence and have a soul that actually makes something out of this one finite life that you have, go to art class. Take graphic design. Learn how to play the trumpet. But do not think that learning about the stock market in 9th grade is somehow going to make you rich, because it's not. Good debate. Well,
I can't do this anymore.
I tried to be Preacher David at the end, but
that was hilarious.
I don't have the ability to be Preacher David. Like, David is the best.
It will take out your soul, amen.
It will take out your soul. All right, let's talk about this debate. So on this debate, we debated about if schools had to choose, should they get rid of art classes and replace them with financial literacy, and should they restructure the curriculum to not have any art electives and make sure that people have financial information. I thought this was a very interesting topic. You said it was timely. Why do you think it was timely?
Because I think that a lot of programs are going to be placed in a position where they have to think about, cutting certain programs and stuff. I think that, depending on who's in charge after January of next year, I think that there will definitely be either some emphasis on eliminating art electives altogether or some emphasis on keeping them. It depends. But I think that the pandemic has placed us in a position where we have to start making choices with limited resources. And right now, art electives and sports teams are on the block.
Yeah, so the COVID thing definitely influences if schools might have to make this decision. What do you think was the core controversy in this debate? What do you think the fundamental disagreement is between you and I on this?
Probably whether. Here's the thing. So I think that there are two actually. I think the first is whether or not art classes are necessary in order for you to be creative, in order for you to unleash creativity, etc. And the second is whether or not the skills you develop. Because I think that to a certain level, there's a assumption that financial literacy produces some skills. Yeah. Whether or not those skills are so massive that they outweigh what creativity you can get.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I debated the opposite side, but I would agree with you. I think that most people are not that creative. And I think if you are creative, art class and music class is not going to unleash it.
Bro, it gets boring. If you're creative,
it gets really boring.
Man, I know Beyonce must have been bored in music class. I sing better than all of y'all, including you, Miss What's Your Face?
Yo, that's fact. Bro, if Beyonce had a music teacher, imagine how that music teacher must feel. Knowing that she could never be Beyonce, which all music teachers have their dreams. They end up becoming teachers. Honestly, this is true. All music teachers end up becoming teachers because they couldn't succeed as a musician. The harsh reality of it is what it is. Or she may feel really good that she made Beyonce who she is by teaching her.
Yeah, shout out to Beyonce's music teacher, man. You did something there. Shout out to Beyonce too. Your music teacher did not make you by any means, but
That Beehive would be after you if you said something.
Man, my roommate is a member of the Beehive. Man. Yeah. I'm dead.
I think this is an interesting debate. I do think, though, that if we learned more about tax returns, and so this is an argument you didn't make, but I think it might have came up. Yes, you're not going to beat the stock market, but if you even know what a IPO is, an initial public offering when a company goes public, and you know what it means to purchase a share, I have friends in college right now who are asking me to explain to them all of this stuff because they just never heard of it. And I'm not saying you have to know everything about the stock market. But if schools at least somewhat gave us that information, I think it would be substantial. Because 42% of Americans aren't invested in the stock market.
I think at a certain level, like, I think that it just produces it's information you need. Creativity is nice, right? The creativity that art gives us is nice. I think that that in the economy we live in, like, having those financial skills is essential. If not to succeed, just not to fall for every single trap that we've set. Like, we have so many traps set up, and they're targeted towards particular people that we know don't have these skills. Like, we just know they don't.
Like already, if you know how to start an LLC in a state, you can save money because you can write off expenses like your phone bill that you don't have to, that contributes less to your tax burden, which is a huge thing for people that don't know about it. That's the benefit of owning a business. Financial literacy.
I'll explain how bad this is. I had a friend who's not a close friend, but like, you know, we talked a few times, and he was like, yo, I got a business idea. I got to start up. I got to move. So he was like, bet, I'm going to go incorporate my business in, I think, like California or something, right? I was like, first of all, why would you choose... when I found out...
13% state tax.
I was like, why did you choose California of all places? And it was also like I think it was like there was an online sector to it too. So I was like, why did you choose there? I was like, incorporate... I was thinking that he would incorporate somewhere like Delaware or something like that.
Yes.
Right?
Which is the friendliest state, yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, I'm gonna go incorporate. So I was like, bet. In my mind, I was like, man, I'm gonna see him in 2 months and ask him about it. I called him after 6 months. I was like, yo, I have not seen you in a while. Where you at? He was like, oh, I'm in California. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I have to incorporate my business. So I moved out to California. I was like, you don't need to be there.
That's the only reason you moved out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid, bro. And I feel like high schools need to like establish that. They need to establish what a 1040 form is. They need to establish how you can make money by flipping houses, how you don't have to just get a 9-to-5 and trade your time for money. I guess like entrepreneurial things, that not everyone's gonna be an entrepreneur, but basic business hustle like terminology.
Bro, you need that.
You gotta know that shit at some level. And I think your argument about music being boring and art being boring, like, yeah, it's just really boring. Like, at least the classes you and me, like, it was boring.
Yeah.
I hope none of my teachers seeing this are gonna get mad, but it was boring. Like,
so yeah, here's the thing. I remember 3 teachers that I had, because I had a different teacher for like music or art every year. I remember 3 that I had. I remember my 2nd grade teacher when I moved out to America. Was this like Asian dude that taught me how to play the recorder, and that's it. Then I had I think Mr. Morrow or something.
That recorder shit was definitely pointless, bro.
It was so pointless learning how to play the recorder.
Bro. There was no need to learn cursive.
Yo.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's interesting, man.
I don't get school anymore, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, now that I'm done with college, I literally remember nothing from high school, and I'm not even saying that just to say that. Like, I'm actually trying to analyze, did I learn something in high school? And the answer is, like, I learned social skills, I learned how to, like, make friends, I learned debate, which was an after-school activity, but in those classes, like, do you remember, like, a lot?
No, I recently like went through a like treasure chest, like one of those it was just a box full of stuff, and I found like a book that we did. So I placed like 2nd in Mr. Townsend, who was our AP like English teacher. I placed like 2nd in this contest he did where you had to like write like poetry in like iambic pentameter.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I wrote a poem called Pistanthrophobia, which is the fear of trust.
Yo, I thought it was the fear of peeing, low-key, because you said pistanthrophobia.
Yeah,
the fear of trust.
I was like, this is the type of random and pointless information that I would take and then use in order to create entire assignments. Like, and the poem was good. I'm not gonna lie.
Pistanthrophobia.
Pistanthrophobia.
The fear of trust.
Yep.
I thought it was the fear of pistachios. Low-key.
Right.
A fear of pissing while you're eating pistachios? Is that like what it is? I love cool words. One of my favorite words is called Byzantine. Or Byzantine.
Byzantine?
You know what it means?
Like old?
No. It means intricate.
Oh.
Complex.
Well, I know it's named after the Byzantine Empire, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what the word pilfer means?
To steal.
To steal, yes. These are cool words. What is the word? No, it's indubitably.
Indubitably.
It means, like, without a doubt.
Okay, yes.
That's phenomenal.
Here's the wild part. The only reason I know that is because of a YouTuber named Crank Lucas. He does like a bunch of like big word freestyles, and he uses the word indubitably like a lot.
Interesting. Yeah, this was a fun debate. Ultimately, I think it comes down to, if you're listening to this, and let us know in the comments who you voted for. Do you think money is better achieved through being creative, which is seeming like the ultimate impact of financial information? Or do you think it's so hard to be creative that if you're creative, you're going to make money no matter what because you're creative, and you should have basic financial information to help you understand the world a little bit?
Yep, and to all the people that were in high school in 9th through 12th grade in Houston during Harvey, or in New York during Sandy, I just want you to know that financial literacy would have been dope. Hurricanes.
You're only going to get that reference if you listen to the whole debate. I understand if you left the debate during that reference because you were like, I'm done with this, I'm not watching this anymore.
You should have stayed. Hurricanes can be solved through financial literacy. How is that not an impact that outweighs anything Amit said? You can survive hurricanes.
I feel like you definitely have to be more creative to survive hurricanes.
Nah, dude.
All right, well.
We need a better government.
That's true.
That's true.
A better government. This would solve a lot. All right, let us know.
We wouldn't be debating this.